A little mantra meditation. I mean, I thought you did quite well, actually. I think you have a future in mantra meditation. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know, on Friday, just Friday, was what we call Krishna Janmashtami. It's Janma Astami. Janma means birth, and Astami actually means the 8th day of the moon. We, in Krishna consciousness, we follow the normal, they call it, actually the technical term is Gregorian calendar, means it's based on the sun. But in Krishna consciousness, particularly, at least you could say traditionally, we use the lunar calendar. So it was the 8th day of the moon. And the moon is now, it's going down, waning. The moon is waning. Yeah. And so it was Krishna's birthday. It was Krishna's birthday. And you know what birthdays are like. People get excited. Yeah. It was really nice. So, what I'm going to do, I think, what I'm going to try and do, is read something that Srila Prabhupada, our founder, if you're not familiar with things, if you're really not familiar, that's his picture. You see this little white structure there with the lights? That's the altar. So up there where the different things are, the biggest picture, that's Prabhupada. That's Prabhupada who brought the tradition, our tradition of Krishna consciousness from India. There's a verse, there's a verse that I'd like to read to you, which is, it's actually from Bhagavad Gita. Again, if you're really not familiar with Krishna consciousness, I'm sure some of you are, but if you're really not familiar, then Bhagavad Gita, it's like our main scripture, sort of, you could say it's like our Bible if you want to, or our Quran or something like that. So Krishna took birth, or we use the term, we say he appeared, because he's eternal. He's not like us, who, we're people who were born, and we were little, really, really little, and gradually we grew up, and I assume I'm the oldest person here. What's your age? How many? 55. Oh, you're a baby. Oh, God. If I could be 55, I'd be. I'm 71. Yes. That's it. Makes a difference. So what I'll do, I'll start by reading this verse. It's sort of like one of the classic verses in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, the main scripture, which is spoken by Krishna himself. And approximately 5,000 years ago, Krishna was here. approximately 5,000 years ago. So, it's a really old tradition. And it's a very, you could say, philosophically rich tradition. In that, of course, there are things, there are like beliefs, you could say. But it's not just, Krishna consciousness is not just another belief system. It's Krishna consciousness is practical in the sense that if you do certain things, you get certain results. Yeah, it's not just like, you believe in something and hope for the best, but you don't find out if you got it right until you die. And then if you got it wrong, it's already too late. It's a practical step-by-step process of personal development, you could say. Spiritual development. So, okay, I'm going to read this verse here now, spoken by Lord Krishna around 5,000 years ago. It's Bhagavad Gita, as it is, chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, verse 8. And it's Krishna spoke this in Sanskrit language. Sanskrit is old classical language from, you could say from India, but actually it's not just from India, it's from Southeast Asia. And it's the basis of a number of the languages from Southeast Asia. So Krishna spoke this in Sanskrit. I'll read the Sanskrit verse and then I'll read the translation. And Sri Prabhupada, our founder, spiritual master, what he says, he gives a commentary actually, but I'm going to read from a lecture he gave where he sort of expands a bit on the verse itself. Right, so here's the Sanskrit. Paritra naya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. And the translation, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So Krishna, who, according to our tradition, according to himself, and it's been going for thousands of years. So according to a whole lot of people in the tradition, Krishna is an incarnation of God. And he came, like we said, around 5,000 years ago to carry out that mission. Three things, particularly three things Krishna mentioned there in that verse we just read. To deliver the pious, or we use the term, for people who are practitioners, we use the term devotees. People who are devoted, devotees. So, to deliver the pious or to deliver the devotees. Then to annihilate the miscreants. Those who are like, you could say, the really bad people. The really bad people, particularly the ones who give the devotees a hard time. And then to re-establish the principles of religion. Krishna says that I invent myself, I appear millennium after millennium. He comes in a spiritual form, not just flesh and bones and blood like us. And he doesn't die. I've been around, I first actually I saw Srila Prabhupada in the picture there on the altar. I saw Prabhupada, I was at university in, would you believe, Auckland, New Zealand. I am born and raised in Auckland, long way away. Talk about a different place. Yeah, so I was at university there it was April 72. April 72. Where were you in April 72? Well, you know what we would say? We would say, you were in your previous lifetime. It's not like you were just nowhere and you were nothing. But what Krishna explains, and it's like very foundational, really foundational point in the philosophy and the concepts, is that we're all eternal persons, but we're inhabiting these temporary bodies right now. And here's something you can just think about in that regard. It's an interesting little point. And it's not one of the big points, but it's there. Is that, we were all children. The majority, well, me and our friend here, you're in late middle age. Old age begins at 60. I'm really into old age. So, when we're children, we think in certain ways. We're attracted to certain things. We're, frightened of certain things, or sort of repelled by certain things. We desire certain things. And of course, the body, when you're just a child, your body, you can't really do much physically. But then gradually the body grows up. And gradually, you become a youth, like a teenager, something like that. Then you come to like early adulthood. I would say that you're basically in early adulthood somewhere. And then you go into middle age, sort of 40s, 50s. Then old age begins at 60. And then, you go on. So as you go on, your body changes. Your body changes from the time of birth, or the time you were in your mother's womb. Your body changes from that time. And your mind changes. Your mind changes. When you're a child, well, I don't know about here so much, but in New Zealand, if you're a little girl, you would play with Barbie dolls. Do you use Barbie dolls? Did you? Yeah, okay. When I was that age, I had a little teddy bear like this size. I would take him to bed at night, and I called him Johnny. And I thought Johnny was pretty cool. Yeah. We would spend a lot of time together. I was preschool, of course, at that time. In New Zealand, I was born in New Zealand. In New Zealand, I don't know about now, but at that time, you start school when you're 5. I started school, would you believe, the day after I turned 5. Like, not just kindergarten, but school. So your desires change, your perspectives on life change. We used to play with what they call dinky toys. They're little cars. That size, little cars. But the doors open, the bonnet in the front opens, so wow, it's pretty interesting. But then you grow up, and in New Zealand, you used to, now you get your driving license when you're 16. When I was young, I got my license when I was 15. You could get your driving license when you were 15. Now it's 16. So then, I graduated from a dinky toy car, a dinky toy Ferrari, something like that. I graduated to a motor car. Yeah. So your body changes and your mind changes too. Your mind changes. When you're just little, the difference between boy and girl, you just don't even know there's a difference really, or it's not an issue at all. But then, you reach whatever age of puberty, and suddenly, if you're a boy, the girls start looking interesting, and vice versa. At least traditionally it's like that. So, because your mind changed. Well, your body changed too, and your mind changed. And then as you get older, your mind continues to change and develop. Oh, yeah. And then like I said, I'm 71. Even since the time I was 55, my mind's definitely changed. Perspectives on life change. But now, having said that, still, you are the same person. You're not another person. Your body's maybe unidentifiable from your early childhood. You may not be able to recognize that, wow, this is the same person, you just grew up. On that level, it may be unidentifiable. The change of body and the change of mind may also be kind of unidentifiable from when you're just a little child. But still that you are the same person. You're not another person. In other words, there's that sense in all of us that the mind and the body is kind of surrounding an entity called you. And it's like just these things are external features, or even sort of, what would you say, not addendums, but just extensions of you, the person. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, just consider that, think about it. It's an interesting point. And Krishna consciousness is full of interesting points. So we read that verse, Lord Krishna's saying why he appears, under what circumstances, and to do what he has in mind when he appears. And he appears, at least in our scriptures, we have, in Krishna consciousness, we have a body of literatures. It's not just one book, it's a whole vast, it's big. Yeah, like you see up on the bookshelf, right? You see there's this whole number of books there, right? Now, my dear friends, this is one book. It's one book. Obviously it's however many, 12 or X number of volumes, because if you want to print a book which is like that, you can't do it. It will collapse as soon as you try to open it. But that is one book. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and there's quite a number. Bhagavatam, that's around 15,000 verses. Bhagavad Gita, I don't know if it's there exactly right now, but anyway, the sort of main text where things summarized, that's 700 verses. So, yeah, all these types of things are stated and explained. You know, like I said, in April 72, I saw Prabhupada at the university. I just happened to be walking through fairly early in the morning, I don't know, maybe 10-ish or something. And I heard the sound coming from my right-hand side. And I looked over, and there was Prabhupada himself, in person, walking not exactly towards me, but just kind of towards and a little in front of me, with a group of his followers, disciples, young men and young ladies, who were dressed kind of like me, but using white clothes like him. And there were two girls. There were two girls, probably early 20s, something like that, dressed in saris, and they were on either side of Prabhupada. He was walking, and they were dancing along with him, and they were throwing rose petals under his feet as they were dancing. It was very graceful, and just really like a beautiful sight. I'd never seen people do things like that before, ever. And this thought just popped into my mind. This must be like heaven. Anyway, okay, so here we go. Let me just read a bit of what Prabhupada says here. In this one lecture, in which it's not a lecture on the verse, but he's referring to the verse. And Prabhupada says that a devotee is in a spiritual transcendental position because the devotee is no longer under the control of the material nature. The devotee is on a higher level. We use the word transcendental. Transcendental basically in simple terms means above and beyond whatever. So another thing, like in a certain sense, it's just in a certain sense. You could say whatever's above the roof here is kind of transcendental to us here in this room, above and beyond. Beyond the confines of this room. So the devotees in a spiritual transcendental position, because devotees are no longer under the control of the material nature. But if a devotee is already delivered, being on the spiritual transcendental platform, then where is the necessity of Krishna coming to deliver the devotee? Because the devotee is already delivered. So what's the point? Krishna says in the verse we read, he comes to deliver, meaning sort of, you could say, to save in a spiritual sense. to help them to get out. Let's put it that way. To help them to get out of the restricted situation of being in this world and having a temporary body. I remember when I was at primary school, and the older brother of a friend of mine, he just had his 12th birthday. I think I was about 8 or 9. And I thought, wow, when am I going to be 12? Oh, it's going to be great. Seriously. I made it to 12 in due course. But this aging process, what's your age? Yeah, 18. You're going to be 71 soon or later. It's different. The experience is different. It really is. Life looks different. So Krishna said that he comes, that there are 3 reasons. First is to deliver the devotees. Second is to destroy the demons. He uses the term demon, like the extreme materialists. And third is to reestablish principles of religion. So here we're talking about delivering the devotees, but Prabhupada's making the point that when a person becomes a devotee, in other words, a practitioner, then from the outset, they're more or less delivered. More or less. There are degrees of deliverance, but, Prabhupada gave the example of a mango. It's now, I guess, down in Durban, you're getting some green mangoes are coming. Yeah, just little ones. But you try and eat a green mango raw. It's not nice. It's kind of sour and bitter mixed together. Makes a good chutney. Mango chutney with lots of sugar. But just if you eat a green, really green mango, it's not nice. But you wait till around Christmas time, and the little mangoes now full size, and it's really nice. So you can't say that the little mango is not a mango. It's a mango, but it's not a fully developed one. So as soon as someone becomes a devotee, like a practitioner of Krishna consciousness, then they're already delivered. Basically, it's just a question of degree. So when someone's delivered from, just being caught up in material life and material attitudes and material emotions and all these things, when a person is, at least they understand, they can see through it and see that this is not what I really need, then they're already basically delivered, at least on a simple level. So such a person, Krishna says, I come to deliver the devotees. But what's the point? Because they're already delivered. Yeah. So Prabhupada carries on. He says, but if a devotee is already delivered, then where's the necessity of delivering him? This question may arise. The Lord comes to deliver the devotee, but the devotee is already delivered. And this, he says, therefore, this is confusing to people. It appears contradictory. So Prabhupada gives the answer. The answer is that the devotee doesn't require deliverance But because the devotee is very anxious to see Krishna face to face, to meet the Lord in person, face to face, then therefore Krishna comes not exactly to deliver, but just to satisfy that desire, to encourage the devotee. Krishna comes in person to meet. And like the creator, or sort of the engineer of the universe in our tradition, his name is Brahma. And when he became like fully Krishna conscious, Krishna walked up to him and shook his hand. Yeah. One day Krishna may walk up to you and shake your hand. Yeah. So Krishna doesn't exactly come to deliver, but to satisfy the inner desire of the devotee. Just as a devotee wants to satisfy the Lord even more wants to satisfy the devotee. Such are the exchanges of loving affairs. Even in ordinary dealings, if we love someone, we want to satisfy him or her, and he or she also wants to reciprocate. So the same thing goes on with the devotees. And, even people like us who are kind of somewhat new to it. I mean, I've only been practicing Krishna consciousness in January the 7th. It'll be 50 years. I'm still a new devotee. It takes some time. But still you can feel, and sometimes you can literally see Krishna's hand in your life. Really, clearly. Like it's not just, coincidence or some sort of strange combination of circumstances, but you can see this is actually the intervention of the Lord. It's amazing. So it's an interesting point that Krishna, God, he really, he likes everyone, he loves everyone, but he particularly is fond of his devotees. Right? Like you. You're his devotee. And he goes out of his way for his devotees. And sometimes when you're a devotee, even like after a few weeks or months, you'll see some things happen and you'll realize, wow, wait a minute. That didn't just happen. It was Krishna. Yeah. So it's a nice thing about Krishna consciousness that another belief system. If you look in a dictionary, often, it depends on the dictionary, but in a number of dictionaries I've looked in, it says religion, religion. Then there's the dictionary definition, belief system. But it's not quite like that. Prabhupada, there were occasions when Prabhupada was asked, what do you believe? I've been asked it many times. What do you Hare Krishnas believe? Prabhupada generally would answer, we don't believe anything. We know. Yeah. There's an element of belief and faith, but as time goes on and you see how things are working, that the things that you believed in, they're actually coming true, then, you see, it's not really completely accurate to call it just a belief system. So those are some thoughts to start off. And now what I'll do, I saw there were some questions going around. Yeah, you can tear off the sheet maybe, yeah, and carry on. Yeah, let's have a look. Because you know what? Our leader here, you know our leader, right? Sabyasachi Guru, he is our leader here. How you all? You know what he told me? He says the devotees here, the young people, the students and people attending the programs here, he told me they're very intelligent. That's what he told me. Yeah. And very thoughtful, and therefore they have many questions. Okay, wow. Many questions. All right, let's go. Which was the first page? Anyway, don't worry. This is the first page. Yeah. All right, here we go. When I meditate, I use the technique of counting from 1 to 10 and repeat the process. But I get thoughts a lot. Is that normal? Well, yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's normal if you're not doing a very good process of meditation. Sort of like, have you heard of the practice of counting sheep to fall asleep? I think it's a relative of that process, counting. Like literally, if you translate or sort of analyze and expand the word and sort of define what it's talking about, meditate means to focus your mind on something. I mean, in the broad sense, to focus your mind on something and keep your mind on that something. If you just think of that something momentarily, it's not a meditation. But if you think about it for half an hour, that's a meditation. But, you don't want to just meditate on just anything. You want to meditate on something. Meditation basically means to meditate on something spiritual which will elevate your consciousness. So, traditionally, in India or Southeast Asia, where the process of meditation, yoga and meditation, it's been going on and really going on for thousands of years. I mean, actually, people don't even know how long. But Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, and these things were already just really going on for a long time before that. So they would meditate on spiritual sound vibration. Yeah. Not just in the mind, like silent meditation. That can, but as whoever it is who wrote this good question has had the experience, if you just in your mind, I'm sure this person's counting from 1 to 10. You just do it in your mind, isn't it? Was it you? Anyway, whoever. Oh, okay, fine. Just in your mind. You're not counting 1, 2, in the mind, right? So the thing is this, and this is an important point. Please note this. It's a very practical point. That until you have, through practice of meditation, come to the point where your mind has become at least more easy to control and focus than in the beginning. Because generally in the beginning, the mind is here and there and easily it just goes all over the place. But through meditation on spiritual sound vibration, audible sound vibration, gradually the mind becomes, pacified, you could say. It's not like your mind becomes dull and you just can't think or something like that. But your mind becomes pacified, like in the sense, because we would say at this point, our minds are kind of in a diseased condition, like the body when the body gets sick. But you take medicine and the disease is removed from the body, and then the body becomes, sort of stabilized, you could say. Prior to that, your body may have been a mess. I mean, just sort of out of control. So through spiritual sound vibration, meditating on spiritual, not just any sound like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, but actual spiritual sound vibration, then that, the sort of the agitations of the mind become pacified, the mind becomes clarified and stabilized, and then the mind can focus on whatever you want to focus on actually, more easily than when your mind is, kind of like electrically charged. So therefore, in the beginning, not just in the beginning stages, but definitely in the beginning stages, we, in our tradition for thousands of years, people start with spiritual sound vibration, mantra, spiritual sound. Yeah, mantra. Man means the mind in Sanskrit, and tra means to deliver. Spiritual sound which delivers the mind from its tendencies to go here and there and makes your mind more focusable. Yeah. And then what we do after some time of practicing this on a daily basis, then people, when their minds have actually become more pacified, stabilized, and they're able to focus better, then we train them to chant just within the mind. Yeah. But until you've reached that point where you can sort of handle your mind, at least to a reasonable degree, if you try to just chant something within your mind, you'll find it very difficult, even too difficult, actually. In the sort of early 1970s sometime, I took up a process of meditation, silent meditation, and I would practice in my mind, chanting something in my mind, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, but it just became too much because I just couldn't focus on it enough. And I'd be focused and it would go off, transiting now and back. And yeah, there we go, but then it goes off again. And so in the end, frankly, I gave up because I thought, this is just not for me. I can't do it. So, Krishna consciousness, I said it's very practical. It's also, you could say it's scientific in that sense. Scientific. The process of science is threefold: theory, experiment, and results. This is the process of science: theory, experiment, results. So, I guarantee you here, look, I would even give you a written guarantee that if you try to chant, do this process of meditation on sound vibration, which we do, which Sabyasachi Prabhu over there in the corner can teach you really well. I guarantee that within a few weeks, within a couple of months, if you work on it, you got to work on it like anything. If you want to get into almost anything, you got to work on it. But I guarantee you, after say 3 months, if you try every day for a while, you will notice really significant, substantial, and beneficial results. And if it doesn't happen, I'll give you your money back. How's that? But we don't change it, so it's okay. So therefore, we have many mantras. We have songs which are composed of mantras and then just mantras. But the basic mantra is the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which I imagine you're all a little familiar with at least. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Yeah. So you should give it a try. It's my recommendation, my experience for the last 50 years. So let's go on here. Dealing with depression and a sense of self-worthlessness, I think you mean. Okay, how to deal with depression and a sense of self-worthlessness. We are all eternal spiritual persons, but we're living in these bodies, temporary bodies. We will outlive these bodies because we're eternal. So the body is doomed to death. The death rate is 100%. Death rate is 100%. There's a saying, as sure as death and taxes. So the death rate's 100%. And you can understand for someone who thinks that, life, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get into it and just live life and all that. When they come to the age of 71 like me, if they make it to 71, then they'll realize that life tends to be a little depressing. In a sense, to feel, if not depressed, but at least pessimistic about life is more a sign of intelligence than being a depressive type of person, because it's true. Life. I saw a bumper sticker once, or a few times I saw it some years ago when I was visiting America. I saw a bumper sticker on a car, and it said, "Life is a bitch." Anyway, just hang on. Life is a bitch, and then you die. Seriously. I saw it with my own eyes. I'm sure you can Google it. You get one yourself. So life's tough. Life's tough. Come on. Unless you're really sharp, university, can be challenging. Yeah. And then you got to work. And when you work, you don't have holidays every couple of months. Then you got to really get into it. Phew. And that's why they talk about Monday morning blues. You heard of that? Because, oh my God, I've got to go back to work. Oh well, got to do it. So off you go. So, but anyway, but to become depressed, you need something to become undepressed about. You need some inspiration. Yeah, we're going to do something worthwhile and positive, which is going to help me, and so I can develop my life. So, we would say that, like, if you're a student, if you're a working person or a business person, that kind of regular way of life. But if you add Krishna consciousness into it, and we would say, instead of living to work, if you just work to live, instead of dedicating your life to becoming a big doctor or lawyer, engineer, or are you studying? What are you studying? Accounting, big accountant, BCom, CA. Going to become a CA? We have many CAs actually in Krishna consciousness. You'll be surprised. We have a number of CAs. Look at him. He's an MTech. He's an MTech, yeah. In civil engineering, right? Yeah, civil engineering. But look, he's a Hare Krishna devotee. Yeah. So, in other words, it can be done. You can combine these things. It's not difficult at all. You can combine these things and avoid becoming sort of consumed by the working environment and the hassles. The hassles, boy, there's plenty of them. Yeah. You can stay above it. Transcendental. You can stay above it. And as I think Jesus it was, he said, live in the world, but not of the world. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. And Krishna consciousness really, really helps with that. Yeah. And it helps with being a student too, because it clears the mind, Krishna consciousness, the meditation, chanting, the Hare Krishna mantra, clears the mind. And when the mind is more clear and more settled and stable, the mind's easier to focus, of course. Yeah. If your mind is buzzing with anxiety, how are you going to focus on your studies? You're not going to, actually. Yeah. So, if you've got a problem with depression, and everybody does sometimes, at least I read, maybe, I don't know, a little while ago, not long ago, maybe 20 years ago. I read that in America, every single person, something like 300 million, whatever it is, something like that, every single person at least one point in their lives, they'll come to a stage, in their minds when things are not going well. They'll have to go to a psychologist or psychiatrist. They'll have to go because they feel like their mind's going to explode on them or something like that. Yeah, so, it's good for the business of the psychologists. But then I read another thing. The occupation in which there's the greatest percentage of suicides is the psychologists. So if you're going to be a psychologist, watch out. Yeah. And that's, Krishna consciousness is also special like that, because there are real elements of psychology in Krishna consciousness, but not just in the normal ways, but in deeper ways. Yeah, more spiritual types of ways. So yeah, if you're dealing with depression, please chant. And if you apply it, like I said, if you apply yourself, then you'll get out of your depression, and you'll see, and you'll wonder, why did I let whatever was on your mind, which was depressing you, why did I let it get the better of me? Because you have gone above it. Aha, now here's a good one. You're going to laugh now. I bet we don't gamble, but I bet you're going to laugh. Can a Hare Krishna devotee date? Well, look, you can do what you like. In one sense, Prabhupada actually said, someone asked him, can Hare Krishna do this? Something. And Prabhupada said, listen, you don't have to breathe if you don't want to. It's not compulsory. But, seriously, if you're going to date, my suggestion would be, if you are actually a Hare Krishna devotee or trying to be or want to be, I'd suggest you date another Hare Krishna devotee. I would suggest, yeah. I mean, you never know. I mean, people are people, whether they're Hare Krishnas or not. But generally, there'd be a greater likely or possibility of the relationship being successful and sort of, developing and being satisfying all around in the longer term. How do we differentiate between practicing devotional service in the mode of passion and practicing in the mode of achieving love of God? Maybe this is a little esoteric for some of you who may not be so new to things. When we talk about material nature, sort of the energy of this world, material energy, we subdivide it. We don't just say, yeah, it's material. It's all material. We subdivide it into what we call three modes. Three modes. There's a mode of goodness, which is more clear and clean and pure and free from agitation. And then there's the mode of passion. Mode of passion is like, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to get into it and just, go for it. It's like the go for it mode. Maybe something like that. But mode of passion means a lot of activity, a lot of desires. I want this, I want that, I want so many things, I'm going to get them. Yeah. One of our devotees, her son, is still, when he moved to Canada, a motivational speaker. What's his name? Lipkin, Michael Lipkin. He left this country, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, you might not have heard of him. But he was a famous motivational speaker in South Africa. People would pay money and go to his seminars. And his mother was a really nice devotee and very famous artist, Jewish artist. So he was in, would you believe, Ermelo, doing a motivational thing. Come on, let's get into it. And he got all the people to become sort of positively minded. Like, can you do it? Yes. Can you do it? Yes. Can you do it? Yes. And there was a devotee in the crowd. And he, this Lipkin, his mother was a devotee, and really good devotee, and unfortunately she died. But so he knew a lot about Hare Krishna. And he knew what Hari Bol means. Are you familiar with Hari Bol? Means chant, Hari, chant, Hare Krishna. So, are you going to do it? Yes. Are you going to do it? Yes. Are you going to do it? Hari Bol. Hari Bol. Like you heard of Boy George? Is he still around? I don't know if I should get into this, but I mean, he is or was or is. I mean, you know, again, they're questions of their degrees. He had a lot of interest in Krishna consciousness. He went to Vrindavan, the birthplace of Krishna, and he was doing, you know, he had gone back to DJing. He was in Moscow DJing quite some years ago, and he was talking to the audience in between, you know, his music, and one devotee was in the front row, who was also a famous DJ in Russia, DJ List. And DJ List was asking, what about this? What about that? And DJ List said, Hare Krishna. And Boy George said, oh, are you a devotee? And he stopped the show and he just spoke to the devotee for a while. Okay, anyway, back to this here. What's the difference between practicing devotional service and mode of passion and practicing in the mode of achieving love of God? Yeah, well, you know, like I said, we got these three modes. Mode of goodness is pure and clear and clean and peaceful, stable like that. Mode of passion is all, you know, super hyperactive type of. And mode of ignorance is basically you're asleep. So, and mode of passion, there's a lot of desire for material things. Just, you know, just all sorts. Get money, get men, get women, get possessions, just get things. Like Paul Getty, who I'm sure you never heard of it. He was the richest man in the world when I was young. He was asked, do you have a philosophy in life? He said, yes, my philosophy can be summarized in one word: more. More. This is the mode of passion. Get more money, properties, houses, etc. So, practicing devotional service, practicing Krishna consciousness in the mode of passion would mean that your attempts in Krishna consciousness, your chanting and, you know, whatever you're doing, trying to do some service, help out, help the devotees, that it's mixed with some desire. Like, let me give you an example. You may laugh, you may not, but you may. When I was a new devotee, like about 49 years ago, seriously, there was a group of us who moved. We were living in the temple in London. I joined our movement in. He used to like speaking to and preaching to would you believe the young ladies who came and visited the temple? He wouldn't preach to the men. Right in the heart of London, right in the heart of London. And if people were just coming and going all day, every day, and he'd be there, but he'd always be speaking to the attractive young ladies. So we told him, hey, listen, why don't you speak to the men sometimes too? And he said, Prabhu, I am pre-Krishna consciousness. And you know what happened? Was he didn't last that long in Krishna consciousness. Some people ask, what will if I chant Hare Krishna, what will I get? Will I get money or fame or something? Prabhupada would say, if you chant Hare Krishna nicely, the result you'll get is more chanting. Means you'll get a taste for it, a higher experience, and you'll realize, wow, this is really something special, which I have not actually experienced before. And, it's a very gripping type of experience. So your devotional service in the mode of passion, if you're hoping to get something material out of it, rather than please Krishna and become purified and become happy in spiritual life, then you may get distracted. And like I know a number of devotees who are living in the temple, but then maybe they got an inheritance or something, they got some money, so they decided to become business people. They moved out of the temple and started some business. But they're devotees. But in a few cases, I remember them saying, listen, once I've made $1 million, I'll start donating regularly to the temple. And it got up to $1 million. I said, okay, are you ready? He said, well, look, I'm invested in this way and that. When I get to 2 million, then I'll start donating. So that's the mode of passion is like that. It encourages material, worldly desire and attraction to worldly things, and tends to distract you from Krishna consciousness. Okay, what is the meaning of life? I know how many weeks we have here. It's not a small subject. But in essence, in the most simple but very clear sense, the meaning of life is that we are all eternal persons. We are eternal parts and parcels of God, of Krishna. And therefore, just like the hand is part of the body, and for the hand to sort of, you could say, achieve the meaning of its life, you could say, it's got to cooperate with the body and help in the it's part of a unit. It's not just a separate thing, it's part of a unit. It's got to play its part in the unit. So we have to play our parts in the unit, you could say. And the unit is Krishna, and we're his little, he's big, he's just really big. And we're just really small. We've got to play our parts by serving him. And sometimes there's a good example of the hand. There's a story, the hand, after many years of, in one way or another, putting food in the mouth, the hand thought, wait a minute, just hang on there. What am I getting out of this? I never got any food at all. It's not fair, I'm going on strike. So the hand went on strike and decided, I am going to eat the food myself. Yeah, I'm going to look after number one. So the hand started trying to consume the food itself and put none in the mouth. But after, a day or two or three or something, the hand started running out of energy and just really feeling run down. And the hand thought, gee whiz, maybe I should start putting the food in the mouth again. So the hand started putting the food in the mouth again, and shortly the hand felt strong. So similarly, we are part and parcel of God, and if we fulfill our roles as His servants, then we feel happy and satisfied. But if we just try to look after ourselves, it's like the hand trying to eat the food itself. You think this is how we're going to get, the good stuff, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. But when we satisfy Krishna, serve Krishna, play our part in the greater picture, then we find we feel good. We feel very happy, happier than we even imagined we might. So that's the meaning of life, you could say, in a nutshell. Well, here we go. Here's a good one. Oh, you'll like this. What do you think of the use of weed? Anyway, okay. It's a fair question. It's not an unfair question. Yeah. So let's just broaden it. I remember when I first arrived in this country, it was 42 years ago, 1980. We had a center in Cato Ridge, if you know where that is, down between Narrowsburg and Durban. A farm, we had a farm there. And on the weekends, the people would come to the village. It was actually Camperdown was the village. And they would sell weed for R1 a hand. Yeah. Just the prices. I don't know how much it costs now, but it's probably gone up. Like everything. But anyway, let's not get sidetracked. In Krishna consciousness, we don't take intoxication, and that even includes tea and coffee, seriously. And let me just tell you an interesting little thing, that when I was in London living in the temple for 7 years, and then I came here in 1980. So we would go out. I'd go out 6 days a week, distributing our literature in the streets. Main Street of London was just a few hundred meters from our temple, and we were there every day. And the police decided they didn't appreciate us. So we would get arrested by the police and have to appear in court and get fined. In those days would have been the equivalent of 5 rands. And I got arrested, my dear friends. Would you believe, actually, I didn't even count, I should have counted. But it's between, I'd say, not less than 50 times, and probably between 50 and 75 times I got arrested. So in other words, you are looking at a criminal. So normally they'd let us out, and then we'd have to come back the next morning to appear in court, and then pay £5 fine. But on a few occasions, they kept us whoever they caught overnight in the cells, and then you have to go into court the next morning. So I know in what they call the centre of London they call it actually the West End. I know the cells in West End Central Police Station really well. So in there, you get people put these stickers up: Alcoholics Anonymous, contact such and such, Narcotics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, and all these things. Contact such and such. Would you believe, and I'm not kidding you, there were signs for Tea Drinkers Anonymous, because it's actually addictive. It's mild, it's very mild, but like coffee, it's addictive. These things are addictive. Yeah, so, weed as a sort of, lower level intoxicant, then people graduate and get into narcotics and heroin and morphine and pethidine and methadone and all these, really heavier things. We put them all, including weed, we put them all in the category of intoxicants. And, if you analyze the word intoxicant, you'll see it's based around the word toxic. These things are poisonous. They're poisons. And they poison the body, they poison the mind, like the hallucinogenics, LSD, mescaline, psilocybin, I don't know what they use nowadays. But these are intoxicants. And they make your mind, they put your mind into an illusory state of happiness, in which you think life is good. You actually start thinking life is better than what it really is. But then you have to come down and find that life is what it is. As what did we say? Life is a bitch. And then you go. And bitch, bitch means a nasty woman. Not a nice one, I can show you. But a bitch means a woman from hell. So, the problem that people have in this regard is that they don't know how to get happiness out of reality. That's the problem. Their approach to reality is such that they don't get much happiness. And they tend to get a fair amount of suffering, actually. Yeah. So therefore they need something, they feel they need something to make them think that life, which is a bitch, is good. A nice bitch. Is a dog. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So the thing is, we have to learn how to get. Life is full of happiness. Actually, it can be an ocean of happiness. In reality, if you live it in the right way. But if you mess up and you make your life a mess by doing a whole lot of rubbish and, like, effectively, if someone hits you on the hand with a card, that's not nice, is it? Like if you slam your hand in the door of a car. But if someone hits you on the hand hard with a hammer, bang, then wow, you think, it's your enemy. But what if you hit yourself on your hand hard? That means you're a bit crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So people are living in crazy ways. They're thinking, we will get happiness out of smoking daka or snorting cocaine or shooting heroin and all these things. And I mean, I actually come from that culture. Don't ask me too much about it, but I actually come from that culture, my God. And how many of my friends ended up dead? Yeah, oh yeah, quite a few. And in jail, oh gosh. Yeah. One of my so anyway, it's all right. It's a mantra. So yeah, the thing is, when our movement first started in the mid-60s in New York, and San Francisco, it was the height of the hippie period. And, weed was the thing and LSD. Those two things, they were the things. And so all the devotees, all those young people who got involved right in the beginning, they're all of them from that background and, highly experienced with these things. But they found that Krishna consciousness makes you feel better. And not only does it make you feel better, but you don't have to come down. And if you get addicted to it, it's not bad for you. It's good for you. And so there's a famous article written in their little publication they are putting out right in the beginning, titled "Stay High Forever." And that's Krishna consciousness. And it really feels better. I mean, weed, it feels a lot better than weed, and it feels a lot better than any of these things. And after you've got into it a while, then you'll look back and you think, how on earth why was I doing those things? Oh boy, really. Speaking from experience. How long have you been practicing yoga? Well, I practiced yoga a bit before I became a devotee. So a little over 50 years, like 53 years maybe. Yeah, probably started when I was about 16 or 17. What do you enjoy about this particular form of yoga? Well, I'll tell you what, in very simple terms, it really frees me from anxiety. I mean, it is amazing. And it really makes me feel happy and good. How's that? Anything else you're looking for in life? If you analyze, you'll see
Even you get all the money, loads of money, really loads of money, you reach a point where it becomes meaningless. Yeah. To get more becomes, there's no point. And for people who are so rich, like Bill Gates, he's giving away billions now, they find they get more happiness from giving away their money and seeing how people become happy than having the money and buying, like a 20th Rolls Royce or something like that, or a third aeroplane, or 15th house, if you know what I mean. You can only live in one house at a time. You can only drive one Rolls Royce at a time. And let me tell you a secret. You may not believe this, but it's actually true. My father was not a poor man. He drove Rolls Royces. And I used to drive his Rolls Royce around. Yeah, seriously. And I tell you what, I couldn't care less about Rolls Royces. I tell you what, big heavy motor car. Yeah. And there's, limited, it's just very limited how much fun you can get out of it. Is yoga spiritual? We could go into a whole thing about different types of yogas, because there are different types of yogas, there are different levels of yoga. There's physical yoga, which Mandla, do you know Mandla? This is him. He's actually, I've seen, he's very accomplished. Yogi, Hatha yogi, yes. I've seen many, and he's really good. That's physical. But now he is not just only into that. He's also into higher level yoga.
There's yoga to do just with the mind. There's yoga to do with the intelligence. We distinguish between mind and intelligence. The mind does not have intelligence. Intelligence has intelligence. And that's why the mind can just go off and you can't stop it sometimes. Right? That's what depression means. Depression means your mind goes off on some negative trip and you can't stop it. And you can't, and you don't. And your mind starts to dominate you with its negativity. And, good luck, because you'll really need it, actually. Or you should actually just chant Hare Krishna. I tell you what, it works so much better. Better than Valium. Yeah. And things like Mandrax or can yoga be a form of an aphrodisiac? Okay. Yeah, interesting people. You'd be surprised. You just, if you really, when you really get into it and understand the depth of these things, what yoga, different types of yogas can do, ultimately, they can bring you to the point where you meet God face to face and become his personal associate, like on a 24/7 basis. That's better than anything you can think of, be it weed, be it sexual experience, or just whatever you could name. Now, I don't know how far we're going to get with these, but even if we don't go to the end, don't worry, because Sophie such a group back in the corner. I'm sure he will take it up next time, right? The rest of the questions. What does one do to get accustomed to this kind of lifestyle? Yeah, right. Well, that's a very good question, practical. I'd say the very first thing, just the first thing, there are different steps, step by step. First thing would be to chant Hare Krishna, start chanting regularly. I've been chanting Hare Krishna it's getting on for 50 years, like daily. And by daily, I mean generally not less than 2 hours, me, for the last 50 years, say. And I can tell you that it has not become boring or, like, oh, you mean the same mantra? Can you give me another one? Prabhupada made the point that because chanting Hare Krishna is spiritual and it's above matter and the experience is above the material experience, and spirit, what is spiritual, the level of the soul, is eternal. Everything material is temporary. Our bodies are temporary. Even we've been sitting here for an hour and a half or so. Our bodies, seriously, have actually changed a little bit. But our bodies have changed in the last hour and a half. Your body is never static. Nothing material is ever really static. So I've been doing it for 50 years, and actually it's getting better. It has always been getting better, and it continues to get better. Seriously, it's really amazing. But Prabhupada, I said, someone asked him, why you chant Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna? Why don't you just chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola? Really, in an interview, Prabhupada was asked that. And Prabhupada, he was always ever astute. He said, you can chant Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, but it will just make you thirsty. Yes. That's all you'll get out of it. You won't get anything else out of it other than frustration and boredom. Yeah. Are you familiar with the Beatles? Have you ever heard of them? Have you heard of the Beatles? Not? Yes. A little bit? Yeah. That's my youth. That's my youth. I was a Beatles fan. And George Harrison, all of them actually, but particularly George Harrison, really got into Krishna consciousness in a big way. And he had the beads and the bead bag, and he was chanting every day for years. And one time I went and visited him in his house, fairly well outside London, near Oxford, and we talked for about 3 hours about so many things to do with Krishna consciousness. And he explained how he had got into the chanting of Hare Krishna. And he told me that he and John Lennon, they had been to India. They had contact with these things, found it very interesting. And so they would chant sometimes. So one day later, a little later, one day they just started chanting and chanting.
and chanting. And they chanted for 21 hours. Yeah, I mean, they just got into it. And George said that was what convinced him. This is something above material experience. And so I asked him, what would it have been like if you sang a Beatles song, one Beatles song, for 24 hours? And specifically, I mentioned the song, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Did you ever hear that? If you didn't hear much. You didn't miss much. So don't worry too much. So, it's just a poppy song. I want to hold your hand. Oh, boy. So I asked him, what would it be like if you sang I Want to Hold Your Hand for 21 hours? And George laughed, and he thought momentarily, and he said, well, I think it would have been A Hard Day's Night. You've not heard of that song, have you? It's another Beatles song. A Hard Day's Night. Life is tough. Yeah. So if you chant regularly, then that as a first step, that'll be a good first step. Then a second step, which could also be a first step, or combined, start reading some of the literature, associating with the devotees. Then you could, as you get into it, you could become vegetarian. It's really nice. When I first became vegetarian, I was in my late teens. It was before, it had nothing to do with Hare Krishna. It just, my brother, for health reasons, became vegetarian. And he told me, hey, this is great, you must do it. So I did. And I noticed in 2 weeks, wow, I felt so much better physically. And that was way before Krishna consciousness, probably like 4 years before Krishna consciousness. I just really felt physically so much better and clearer in mind. Because, our bodies are more, they're sort of omnivorous style. If you look at different types of animals, which have different types of natural diets, but our bodies are more typically vegetarian. And if any of you are doing biology, particularly biology, then you'd know we have a long intestine, really long. Carnivorous animals, even like just dogs and lions and animals which are naturally carnivorous, they have short intestine. It's basically in and out, just like that, to get the stuff out as quickly as possible, because it goes rotten inside your system. And then you get stomach cancer, bowel cancer, colon cancer, all sorts of wonderful experiences you can have from meat eating. But, in India, or even Southeast Asia, but particularly India, cancer of the digestive system, different cancers, were basically unknown because it was traditionally, when I first went to India, it was 1976, the country was 80% vegetarian. Now it's 20% vegetarian, going down. But cancer of the digestive system, the different cancers, were virtually unknown because everyone was vegetarian. Yeah. So what should we do? Tell me what we should do. It's coming up to 4-ish.
think we can stop here with the questions. We will rise and get the circulation going.
Oh, yes.
We'll do about 10 minutes, 15 minutes of mantra yoga, chanting, singing, moving around. Then we get to our meal to end the program. So at this point, just want to give a big thank you to Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. And a big round of applause, please.
Giyabonga, Giyabonga.
To you
Oh,
who have sat down for
too long.
in some sort of lotus position. And I just bring that knowledge back.
That we would have to leave by 4:30 latest.
So, yeah, maybe you'll get a chance to just ask a person ask a question or something if it is a need. Marge will be here with us until that. So, the mantra is there. Hope you still remember it. Not take a peek at it. Massage.
You're going to sing? Oh, okay. You want to mic that?
Mr. Scream. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Where's the cartels? Hare Rama. The Shakers.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, oh, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, oh, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a loud thing. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, oh, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, oh, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Does it work? Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, oh Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Everybody. Hare Rama, Hare
I love the warm flow. Because so I would like to thank you again and say that this is a place where you can come for mantra meditation, for conversations, to sample vegetarian, vegan, karma-free food. This is an educational center. We have so many books that you can read and get the knowledge that the universities won't give us. Knowledge of self, its future, knowledge of the Supreme. And in that way, we create a wisdom culture. And we create a generation of people who know what is the deepest essence of life. And we also create people who can party without just a DJ playing it loud. I know we like the bass of piano, but that music is, you don't really participate. This is together. Here we join hearts, we chant the name of God, and in that way, from the devotion that's there within all of us, we're able to engulf one another in the joy of the soul. So there's a laziness in society to go deeper. And there's a thing that if you try to go within, then you're going to get lied to. You want to join this one and that one, they may lie to you. Here we provide a practical process. If you chant, like you did, you yourself know how you feel. And if you feel you were shortchanged, you can check with your mind, because there was some other dialogue going on there, right? If I sing this song, does it mean that now I don't like Jesus? If I sing this song, like, is it now, am I becoming some Indian? If I sing this song, but it's a technology. We don't care so much about Germany, but we drive their cars, because they're good cars. You may not like, China, but if you check, everyone's got some Chinese product. It's a global environment, we want the best product. And here, the knowledge is, the technology of mantra meditation is first class. So when it said, but Bob Marley, I always speak to him, he said, in the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. So if you're going to not jump into this ocean of transcendental sound, you only have yourself to blame. When others are drinking and you are thirsty, who can you blame? So we love you, we appreciate you, especially His Holiness Bhakti Swami. His schedule is so full. His secretary is already telling me it's time to go. So thank you very, very much for coming and for sharing with us, your experience. Really appreciate that. The many stories that you may say you've walked away, you know so much about Swami. Yes, okay. Next part is that we're going to go outside for some wonderful souls that will serve us, something to eat. So that is what is known as karma-free food. So that food doesn't have the wrongs and rights of whoever bought it, transported it, produced it, it's been cleared of whatever bad reaction, because it's been offered to the person who owns everything. So thank you very much. I'm not so good with these things. Okay, the marriage any final words, sister, before we
Gilonga. I can, if someone would like a second-hand garland, would like. Oh! Yeah, well, thank you very much all. It's been great. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, get into chanting. There's so much there. It's amazing. It's amazing and it's wonderful. And keep with Savyasati Prabhu. Yeah? Don't get too far away from him. He's good. He'll help you go forward. And I'll be back if I can.
Yes, please.
If you don't mind. Sometime. Okay. Hare Krishna.
It's important that everyone get your shoes and come on this way. And feel free to sit anywhere. You can take these cushions, however you want to do that, on the lawn or wherever. Well, you had to. If you weren't here, we would That's me quick chatting. Okay. the spot. You can just do around the yes. Okay, one second. I can put the oh. Good video. Video was the best.
I'm just gonna mute this thing.
Just imagine, I was inside the side.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,